Brexit, as tax stimulus from China, Wesfarmers and a dividend glut. I'm Paul Rickard and I'm mad about money. Well, no Peter Switzer this morning, he's an apology, but let's talk about Brexit. By an overwhelming margin of 432 to 202, the British Parliament said no to Theresa May's Brexit deal. Sterling predictably sold off but rallied back, and I guess that's probably pointing to what's going to happen here. The chances of Britain remaining in the EU have obviously increased. That could be actually the final outcome. But this whole scenario is going to take some months yet to play out. It's got to be a negative for markets in the short term, you'd think. Another reason perhaps to be a little bit cautious about the Australian stock market is we hear of news that China's announced a tax stimulus for some of its smaller companies. Now, clearly the Chinese economy is slowing. That also has some negative impacts for us. But at the same time, we're seeing in the US markets perhaps are just starting to get a semblance of calmness again. Anyhow, putting all those together, I think Brexit's a slight negative for our market, and there are going to be a few nerves around. So I think that the bit of caution is required in our stock market. On to Wesfarmers, which announced a slightly disappointing sales result for the Kmart department store franchise. Sales were down, the market sold off, but Wesfarmers rallied back and is basically sort of sitting at pretty much close to its levels before the announcement on Monday. Wesfarmers is now well positioned to do something. The challenge for the new MD is he needs to make the next move because they've sold lots of assets, created a really strong balance sheet as a result of that, with debt down to something like only $300 million. But we don't know where future revenue growth is going to come from. Certainly they've got the Bunnings franchise, but with the housing market looking a little challenging, maybe Bunnings might come off the boil. I think the market's Wesfarmers is getting back towards the buy zone, but I really want to see MD Rob Scott with his next move. There's certainly some possibilities of some capital actions, but Wesfarmers doesn't have a big reserve of franking credits, so an off-market buyback looks unlikely, but perhaps we might see some sort of on-market buyback or perhaps some other type of dividend payment. Speaking of dividends, well, there's a headline in the story this morning that comes from Mirrabooka, of course, which is a listed investment company. It's going to bring forward the timing of its normal special dividend from July, bring it forward till June. That's not unexpected news because with the whole the whole aspect around dividends at the moment, with the prospect of Bill Shorten becoming Australia's 31st Prime Minister, I've been saying for some time, I expect lots of companies to be looking now between now and the 30th of June as to what they're doing, not just on the capital side, but on the dividend side. If they are likely to pay, say, a dividend in July, it would make sense in many occasions to bring that dividend, the timing forward to June. That way, it'll still have its full value to all shareholders. And we're also going to see more special dividends and perhaps off-market buybacks, prime candidates being companies like Woolworths. So expect more announcements like this. Expect potentially a dividend glut between now and the 30th of June. That's not to say that Bill Shorten's plan is ever going to get up, because it's clearly going to meet a crossbench in the Senate that's got other ideas. But any company board around us at the moment between now and the 30th of June will be looking at their franking credit balance, we're looking at when they're paying dividends, and we're thinking about what they can do to make sure all those benefits actually go to the hands of their shareholders and Australia's retiree community get the benefit of the franking credits that those companies have. Franking credits are of no value to the company. They're only of any benefit in the shareholder's hand. And if there's a company director out there not looking at that situation at the moment, thinking about how the company is positioned and what it may be able to do to make shareholders better off between now and potentially a Bill Shorten Labor government, they're not worth their salt. That's Mad About Money for this week. I'm Paul Rickard and I'm mad about money.